The news landed yesterday, and this was not completely unexpected. The table was set for Rashee Rice, the Chiefs receiver, to do a deal with the NFL. The fact that a hearing was set for September 30 in his disciplinary case arising from that street racing incident that we all saw on video late March of 2024, charged with 8 felonies, pleads guilty July 17 to 2 felonies, 30 days in jail to be served at some point over the next 5 years, 5 years of probation. NFL enters, because I had heard for months from people in the media and from fans, why isn't the NFL doing anything about Rashee Rice? Why isn't the NFL doing anything about Rashee Rice? Well, folks, in a situation like this, if they choose not to put the player on paid leave, and they could have, felony charge alone, 1, much less 8, that's enough to justify paid leave, but they typically only use it in domestic violence situations. So once they decide not to put him on paid leave, they aren't going to do anything until the criminal case has been resolved. It resolved on July 17. It became an issue a couple of weeks ago when someone leaked, I believe, to Shefty, that the hearing before Judge Sue L. Robinson, the person jointly appointed and paid by the league and the union to handle these disciplinary cases under the personal conduct policy, that the hearing before her would happen on September 30. The implication being, until then, Rice is clear to play. Week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, we have the hearing. Week 5, probably until there's a ruling, and then appeal rights, maybe week 6, and all 6 of those games to start the season. Big platform, high profile, YouTube, CBS late afternoon window, Fox late afternoon window, 2 NBC Sunday night football games, and a Monday night football game. Now, the opponents aren't exactly murderer's row. You've got Giants and Jaguars in there. But we know how the Chiefs are. They play with their food. They make games interesting. They find a way to win late, no matter how good or bad the opposition may be. Well, we thought he was going to be available for those 6 games. He did a deal to accept the suspension of 6 games to resolve the case. Here's what I believe happened. And sometimes when I say I believe, the reality is I know, but in order to properly protect my sources and at the request of the people who provide me information, I say I believe. Now, I can't say when. I believe means I know, and when I believe means I believe. Bear with me on that. I believe that Rashee Rice believed, and his representation believed, that if he didn't take 6, it was going to be worse. And was it a bluff by the league? Well, it's not a bluff when the person doing the bluffing holds the cards, dealt the cards, counts the cards. Because the NFL is ultimately in charge of this process. Judge Sue L. Robinson determines the facts. Those are final and binding on both parties. Her decision as to the punishment can be appealed by either side. You could, in theory, have, in a case like this, Judge Robinson issue a 4-game suspension. Rice could appeal because he thinks it's too many. The league could appeal because they think it's too few. Okay, fine. Where does it go? Independent panel hired and compensated by the league and the union? Nope. It goes to the commissioner or the commissioner's designee. Which means the NFL, if they're telling you, hey, it's going to be worse than 6 games or you don't take the deal, you better believe them, because they're going to send a message. And here's what happened, I believe. And this is true belief. Believe me when I say I believe. Someone wasn't thinking it through after Rice pleaded guilty on July 17. What someone should have done that day, press the button to activate the Judge Sue L. Robinson process and get a hearing set ASAP so that everything's over by week 1. What happened was whoever's in charge of initiating the Sue Robinson protocol was lulled into a sense of maybe we'll work this out. And then they tried to work it out. They reached an impasse. And then they realized we better have a hearing. That's the next logical step. Better have a hearing. Judge Robinson, we need your services. You're the person designated under the CBA to be the disciplinary officer in these cases. Can we come see you? Yes, you can. September 30. Oops. Uh-oh. And once that came out, and look, setting aside all of the partisan Chiefs fans and the Chiefs haters and all the stuff that folks were suggesting, I don't think this was part of an effort by the NFL to help the Chiefs. But when you deviate from the standard practice of getting these things concluded by week 1, you invite people to say, what is going on here? And that's what happened. People around the league, people in positions of power and influence were saying, what's going on here? Someone in a position of power and influence said to me, what's going on here? And that's what sparked us to write about it and talk about it. And then after I did, you know what else happened? Other people in positions of power and influence reached out to say, you're right. What's going on here? And I believe that calls were made by people of extreme power and influence with the question, what's going on here? I've heard the management council is upset. I don't know whether or not the commissioner was, but my guess would be he was. Because they're aware of all the talk about the Chiefs' bias. They lean in to the joke that they script things, and we know they don't. And I don't believe they can rig games even if they wanted to. And if they wanted to and tried to, they would probably screw it up because it's impossible to do. And then you'd have people who know about it. And then what if they say something to someone? There's no reason to. The money is rolling in regardless of who wins the games. We had the Chiefs in every freaking Super Bowl except one since 2019. And the numbers are still through the roof. Biggest preseason ever. Well, not ever. Since 2018. By way of audience. There's anticipation. Even though when you look at it, it's like, oh, hell, it's probably going to be the Chiefs and Eagles again. So they don't need to do that. This was incompetence, not malfeasance. But it creates the impression, and it gives the people who are inclined to think there's a Chiefs bias something they can sink their teeth into. I think all of that was part of the impetus, if not all of the impetus, to get someone to say, look, here's how we're going to do this. Because, oh, by the way, we control this process. We can do whatever we want. Make sure they understand. Here's the deal. And if they don't take it, it will be worse. Not could be, not might be. It will be worse. Make sure they know that. It's take 6 or get 8 or 10. And really, if you play the first 6 before it's all finalized and you get 11, you're not coming back for the regular season. So I believe, and I don't think you need to know this. I think common sense tells us Rashee Rice had 2 choices. Take the certainty of 6 or the certainty of more. Gee, what am I going to choose? And I wonder if he had known, if his representatives had known that it would be 6. Would you rather have the 6 to start the season, or would you rather play and then serve the 6? It's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, pun intended. But it doesn't matter. Because I believe it would have been more than 6. And more importantly, I believe Rashee Rice knew. Door number 2 is not going to be good. I better take door number 1. I better take the 6 games. And it's more time for him to recover from the knee injury. And it's funny because I've seen multiple different ligaments that were torn. Whatever it was, it wiped out his season. It puts you through a rehab process, and you're coming in cold. Now, he'll be a little colder, but he will be farther removed from the injury that happened September 29 last year against the Chargers, who the Chiefs will face to start the season. Rashee Rice now won't be there. There had been reporting he'd been cleared to travel to Brazil, to enter Brazil, because the felony guilty pleas may have been a complication. And that's one of the realities of these international games. One of these days, they're going to be going to a country where the country says, hang on, this person can't come in. That's going to happen. Didn't happen in Brazil and doesn't matter because he's not going. One last point before I pivot. Jim Harbaugh obviously will be coaching the Chargers. They had a conference call yesterday. The NFL did, to talk about week 1, the game in Brazil. And they invite reporters, and we can ask whatever question we want. So I said, hey, Chargers, starting the season in Brazil. Jim Harbaugh, 10-year show cause order from the NCAA. Are we going to follow the precedent that was set with Jim Tressel? No comment from the league. Now, no comment means no comment. Maybe they're cooking something up behind the scenes that we don't know about. Maybe they've gone to Jim Harbaugh and said, you will take this or it will be worse. I don't know. But I think at some point we deserve, they owe transparency to all of us. Because you created a precedent. You're either going to follow it or you're not. And if you're not going to follow it, you should tell us why you're not going to follow it. I think that's fair. I think that's appropriate. We'll see if that happens. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.